Hi y'all, my name is Mr. Chao, and welcome to Chao Time. This is the Casio Duro, or the Casio Marlin as it's called in Taiwan, when it'll be the subject of this week's review. I'm interested in this watch because I have been wondering since the inception of this channel how far the value multiplier could be stretched, especially for something that is as high a quality as this. And for this price. This is the cheapest watch I've had on the channel so far. It's also the first analog quartz watch I've had on the channel, and actually in my personal life as well. The way I review watches is by subjectively comparing it against a rubric that I've created in categories such as the dial, the movement, the case and bracelet, and then more objectively in a category for brand, heritage, and prestige. I then take that total score and I apply a value multiplier that kind of captures the diminishing return on watches as the price goes up. If you're interested in how this all works, there is a link in the top right hand corner of the screen. Before we get to the review though, first we have to understand the design philosophy of the watch, what it's made for, why it exists, what design language inspires it, and this is a value dive watch through and through. There are virtually no frills, all function. So let's get to it. The first category is the form and function of the case and bracelet. Like almost every modern diver, the watch is made from 316L stainless steel. It has a classic case shape, not making any waves here. The case finishing is surprisingly good though. One of the key tells that the case finishing is not up to par is when the brushing or polishing overlap. On a high quality watch, there will be a distinct line separating the two. I use a 60x jeweler's magnifier, and the budget Casio acquits itself well. The brushing and polishing are both of a high quality. The overall case shape is fairly angular, yet many of the edges are rounded. The bezel is astonishingly good, with very solid feeling clicks, although they do kind of sound cheap. I can't quite place my finger on it, but it reminds me of turning the knob on a dryer or dishwasher or some other such appliance. The bezel insert is painted blue with a lume pip to help track the time in dark and lonely environments. Sitting inside the bezel is a flat mineral crystal with a slight bevel to add the tiniest amount of visual interest when looking at it from the side. There are no logos or branding visible on the case of the watch when wearing it. The crown is a little too smooth to be called excellent, and a little too flat as well. It's difficult to get purchase on it, which is a shame, seeing as the designers wasted a lot of space on the 44mm case width, leaving little room for a well-proportioned crown. There's almost nothing to say about the strap. It's made of some stiff rubber, which does conform to the shape of your wrist quickly. I found that some of the supple silicone rubber straps don't ever conform and put pressure on the sides of the wrist, which is uncomfortable. At least this strap doesn't do that. I've seen very few instances of quality control issues, which is great, seeing as there are likely hundreds of thousands of these watches in circulation, if not more. 7 out of 10 for form, 6 out of 10 for function. Let's take a look at this sunburst blue dial. Even though it's sunburst, it's a little bit polished as well. It's shiny and you can see the underside of the second hand ticking away when you look close. It seems to be a texture that is easy to produce at this day and age. The applied indices and hands are all polished well, but the hands have some scuffs on them already. Both the hour and minute hand have angles to them rather than being flat, which surprised me. Also surprising is that the second hand lands on the second track very well. The print on the dial is clean and crisp, while being unobtrusive and simple. The overall look is a little plain, just as with the case, as it is a very classic and inoffensive design. On the plus side, it's very legible. On the negative side, the lume doesn't last into the night, usually wearing off by midnight or 1 a.m. after being charged at 9 p.m. Back on the positive side, it is evenly applied. One last negative note though, the lume seems to be mixed with paint, and you can see little grains of lume under macro inspection. I'm not sure if it will be visible in this video, but there are spaces between the lume grains. So while it is evenly applied, it isn't of a high quality. 7 out of 10 for form, 8 out of 10 for function. Let's move on to the quartz Miyota ticking away inside of the case. So this movement is just the standard quartz movement from Miyota, which is a division of Citizen. It ticks once per second, and the second hand does not stutter or shake. Looking into the case back reveals a cavernous space, partially filled by a tiny movement. It has no decoration or finishing beyond being partially polished metal. There is one complication, the date. From what I've read, the battery lasts for about 2 to 3 years. 3 out of 10 for form, 3.5 out of 10 for function. Let's move on to the Casio brand and heritage. Casio was founded in 1946, but didn't start making electronics until 1950 with Japan's first electronic calculator. They released their first wristwatch in 1974, aiding Seiko in the quartz crisis and putting digital watches on the wrists of the masses. While Casio was once at the forefront of watch technology, times have changed, and now Casio inhabits the value end of the watch industry. There are various $10 to $15 Casio available on Amazon, Walmart, and other such places. There aren't many watches that enthusiasts pay attention to when G-Shock is excluded. For that reason, Casio scores a low but still respectable 4.5 out of 10 for brand heritage and prestige, bringing the total score to 39 out of 70. The watch is still being made, although I believe the Marlin logo is now gone due to some sort of licensing expiration. I was able to find this online for about $50 USD, which is pretty in line with new prices in other places. Using the new price of $50, the value multiplier is an astounding 1.945, nearly hitting the theoretical limit of 2. The value score is 75.86, which, as with many other aspects of this watch, surprised me. I thought for sure this watch would come out number 1, but it wasn't meant to be. It's 16th in total score and second place for value. So that brings me to my personal opinion on this watch. And it's hard for me not to think about the value of this watch, as it's a value watch. And as I was making this video and got the value score, I wondered what it would have taken for Casio to beat the Certina in first place, and it would have needed a 40.5 in the final score to take the crown. And so I wondered what the watch would have needed to do to reach 40.5, and I think some combination of sapphire crystal, a better crown, or maybe better lume, I think would have done it. And it also, I guess, made me wonder, is that possible for Casio? Could they have put some combination of those things into the watch at this price point? And at the volume they're making it, I think they could have. But why? Why do that? They're already selling them quite well. It's very cheap. It is still a pretty high quality watch for this price. For me though, the watch doesn't quite work. And part of the reason is the size. It's hard for me to get over that massive space around the movement. I wish they would have shrunken the dimensions a little bit, maybe to 42 millimeters, so that they could have enlarged the crown, so that the overall footprint of the watch would have been the same. It just would have had a slightly nicer crown. Value aside, I think the watch is pretty interesting. It falls just short of charming, and that goes back to some of the design decisions that they made. Other than that, I guess there's not much more to say. It's a great value watch. It's a perfect beater watch. It costs less than 10 Starbucks mochas. Bill Gates wears it. It's a gateway watch. I guess there was a little bit more to say. So, do you agree? Is there anything about the scoring you would have done differently? Is there anything about the rubric that you think should change? Is there any content that you want to see me make? Please let me know in the comments below, and thanks for making it to the end. See y'all. Bye.